I have officially used every single Nikon branded Z mount lens that one might use for landscapes. So today I want to rank them best to worst, or rather best to other best, because there are a lot of great lenses in this range. We are not talking money today. We are just talking the best, and what I will consider is the optics and the convenience of hiking to the location, because nobody wants to be taking a fat lens on an uphill hike when there is an option that might be just as good and maybe smaller and lighter. Couple notes. I understand that many people use all kinds of different focal lengths for landscapes, but I can't do every single Nikon lens, even though it's all technically possible in the right place, pointed at the right subject. So instead, I asked Google what it considered the most typical focal lengths that people have popularized for landscapes, and it said 24 to 50. That seems okay, but a vast landscape needs a little bit more, so let's just say 14 to 50 millimeter. Cool? Cool. If you're shopping for any of these lenses, I do hope you'll consider the link in the description. I get a small commission if you do so. Get ready for some hot take opinions, and don't forget to subscribe and tell us what your favorite lens is for landscapes. Let's go. Oh boy, that's a lot of lenses. Okay, so I don't know how to partition this up in a way that's particularly tidy, and so we'll just consider the stuff that's down here just to be the absolute worst. This is last place, second to last, third to last, fourth to last. I think what's going to be the easiest to do is to probably work out what I think are just probably the worst. Maybe fill in the bottom first. Something in the really like long and super heavy end. We'll start with the really just kind of obnoxious ones first that I just think would be a pain to carry out landscaping. Let's do that as the 28 to 400 just being dead last. It's kind of long and obnoxious, and it does more outside of the typical landscaping territory than it does within the landscaping territory. And optically, it's just kind of like okay. With landscapes, I feel like you want something really sharp and really colorful, and that's just not it. Now, what would be the next worst? I feel something like the 18 to 140. I just don't think that you're gonna like that. For optically, it's just kind of okay. This lens is more fun. All right, the 18 to 140 is more fun than it is good, and its strength and like focus speed just don't really translate to landscape very well. So let's stick that down here. What's another like bad one for landscapes? I feel like the 24 to 200, optically it's pretty terrible, and it's pretty outside of the range, but it is a little bit lighter than the okay, we're gonna put this as second to last. Optically it should be dead last, but this one still is really big for like hiking up a hill and landscapes. Let's see if we can fill in that last one. Honestly, I feel like a fairly terrible option. I hate to do it. I really, really hate to do it. But the 50 millimeter f1.2s is an awful heavy lens to be a landscape prime. You're going to be shooting this at 5.6, 6.3 or better anyway. A lot of people are. And even though that this is optically brilliant, it's like my third favorite lens of all time. It's just really heavy, and it doesn't have like the versatility of like a zoom, and so I don't like putting it there, but it's got to be up there. Maybe we'll move that later. Now let's kind of contemplate what may be like the top three. I feel like the top three for sure. Let's just talk optics. 20 millimeter f1.8s. Definitely in the conversation. And these two are definitely in the conversation as well. In fact, it's kind of tough because the 14 to 24 is definitely optically better. It's also heavier and bigger. And maybe this 6 millimeter on the top end would actually be more useful. The f4 versus f2.8 isn't going to matter because you're going to be shooting this probably stopped down anyway. Honestly, I think this may be a better option for second place. Actually, I kind of want to put that in first place right now. It's just so small and it goes wider. Maybe you're at the top of a cliff and you can't back up the amount of distance required to make up that 6 millimeters on the wide end is pretty severe. And just because this one is heavier, this is a fantastic lens, but this 14 to 30, if you haven't used it, it is shockingly good and it's pretty tanky and small, and it's not that it's heavy for what it is. It feels tanky, but it's definitely easier to carry around than this beast. Okay, so that was a little easier than the bottom ones. Now I want to put the 24 to 120. This is such a fun lens, and optically it doesn't score particularly well in individual categories, but the images come together really good. You know, you got this 24 to 50 range, which is kind of what we're considering today, and then you have, you know, 51 to 120 on the top end. I just feel like this lens is better for other things. It's not like a landscape lens. Not that you can't shoot landscapes with anything. You shoot landscapes with a 600mm if you want. We're going to put that towards the bottom for now, just because I got to get this stuff out there. I want to put the 51.4. I want to put it pretty low, just because optically I don't find it to be that good. But the 50mm f1.8s, however, I want to put this up here kind of high, somewhere up here, because this is a great optic, and it's real lightweight. It's fast, which isn't necessary in landscapes, but it's just a really good optic, and it's really easy to carry around. Now this lens, surprisingly, the images come together pretty good. Pretty average optically if you judge it on an individual score of like sharpness, contrast, and color, but the images come together in a pretty good way. And this 16 with the crop factor will give you 24mm. If you're in, actually I need to rethink how I do this. If you're shooting landscapes with a full frame and you put this on there, you're losing megapixels. So if you're using this on a crop sensor camera, then it's actually 24 to 75. I kind of want to maybe have these DX lenses lower. Oh man, okay. This is a little bit tough. I'm going to score them middle of the road. I think that's fair, because I don't think full frame shooters, they're not opting for this, but some DX users, they would benefit from something like the 14 to 30 instead of this. Oh gosh, we're going to leave that in the middle for now. The MC50, it's a better choice, I think, than the 51.4 optically. We're stopping down after all. Kind of no versatility. We're going to kind of stick it down here until we start to fill up here. The 26 f2.8, if you're looking for something light and just optically awesome, I would actually rank this pretty high for wider landscapes. Not a whole lot of versatility. We may push that down, but that's a good place to put it for now. This DX too. Love how the overall images come together. They come together pretty well. I think I would rather have this optically than the 16 to 50, because it'll go a little bit wider. 18 when you introduce the crop factor on crop sensor cameras. I think this is a better option than this one. God, I feel really weird about putting any DX lens above a full frame lens. I just don't know that there's a lot of crop sensor landscapers. The 24 to 50 has the benefit of like weighing absolutely nothing, but the problem is you're going to stop down to 5.663 anyway. But since it's already an f4 to 6.3, you don't have a lot of room. Lenses are never at their best whenever they're wide open. And this is, you're not stopping down much for image improvement. I feel like I want to put this one really low. I actually kind of want to, I want to swap this out. I want to put this right here. This is just like an awkward lens. And like the versatility, it's just not that versatile either, even though it's like a zoom, because 24 to 50 is like not that much. This lens is not that good optically. This is more of like a fun lens to shoot because it has kind of a, like an old school dainty kind of look to it. Which I don't think is what people are after with landscapes. And so I kind of want to rank this one kind of low too. I would actually probably, I would rather use the 18 to 140. I would use that as far as DX lenses go, probably before I would use this one, just because the images are put together a little more. This is like an artsy-fartsy kind of like a designer look to it. It just doesn't scream landscape to me. Now, these three mid-range zooms may seem like it would be kind of hard for me to place, but I kind of already know what I want. Optics over heft, for sure. But this lens here is absolutely no slouch, and it weighs less than this. It happens to be cheaper too, but this scores really high in my optic grading, and so this one is definitely preferred over this one if you're hiking. But this 28 to 75, it's really lightweight, but it doesn't stand up against the optics of this one. So I would say 24 to 70 to 8 is better optically than the 24 to 70 f4, but this also has lightweight factor. So does this one, and this one just doesn't even come close. It doesn't even sniff the talent that these two have for optics. So I would put these back to back, but I would probably, let's move this down. Yeah, we're okay with that. Now, if we want to go wider, I'm going to stick the 17 to 28. I think this would be more popular amongst most landscapers, the 17 to 28 range. Probably more popular than the 24 to 70 range. I personally know more wide landscapers than I do mid-range landscapers. So I would put this one right here. It's both lightweight. It's not optically on the same level as the 50, but it'd be more popular. Let's go there. Okay, the 28 and the 40, I would put them kind of close together. We're not talking about the retro ones today, so let's just like not bother with those. I wouldn't pay more money for those personally. The 40 is better than the 28 optically. I do think that wider would be more popular and probably more useful most of the time. So even though, I mean, they both weigh almost nothing, I'd say 28 might be more popular. You'd disagree as far as landscapes goes. The 40 is better, but I don't know if it's significantly better. 50 to 8 down, I just don't know a lot of 50 millimeter landscapers. And then we can bring the 40 up to this spot. The 24. This one needs to be a little bit higher. It's optically superior to a lot of things that are currently sitting in front of this slot. I would, okay, I'm going to move this to here. 50's lightweight factor is still holding it up there. I would put this like right here. Now's a good time to reiterate that this is highly opinion-based. All right, we got a couple more here. We got the 35-1.4. I don't think that this is a particularly good lens. It's kind of on the artsy-fartsy side as far as like its look goes. And so I would actually probably rank this lower, and I'm actually out of room. Holy crap. I miscounted lenses, I guess. Boy, this is getting crazy here. Okay, so even though the 35-1.4 is not great optically, it is better than this 24-200. The 24-200 still has the versatility on it. This 28-400 is just still, I still think this is just a bad choice. So let's put this in second to last, I think. Let's move the 24 right here. 18-140, we'll move that right here. The 24-50 right here. This is a little bit wider. This is getting tough, everybody. I would take the 35-1.8 before I would take the 12-28. Okay, let's move this down and see what I think. Okay, now we've got everything on the board. You're walking uphill and you're taking one lens, and so you need a good balance of optics, versatility, and portability, which kind of makes me think that maybe zooms are the name of the game with how I'm thinking right now. Some of the zooms just don't hit. And so 24-70, I'm sticking right here. I'm going to move this 26 51.8 down here, 17-28 right here, 24 f1.8s right there. I'm happy with where this stuff is down here. The 51 too, I'm wondering at what point do the optics supersede the need for portability and versatility? Because I certainly wouldn't take the 28 before I would take the 50. Well, I can tell you one thing. The optics of this are certainly better enough that the 51.4 doesn't... the lightweight nature of this... Like, honestly, the 51.8 is also really light and superior optically to the 51.4. So let's move that down. And honestly, the 50-2.8 MC, if I'm going to take a 50, I would take the f1.8 on a hike before I would take the 51.2 on a hike. But I would take this based on its optics before I'd take the 50 MC. And honestly, I would take the 24 for a little bit more versatility before I would take this one, even though this one's probably optically better. Definitely is optically better on individual categories. Oh, oops. I would definitely take the 40 before I would take the 28, even though the 28 is wider. Maybe not. I would take the 40 before I took this. The 40 does have a special look bonus, though. It does have a unique kind of look to it that I like. I would take that before the 16-50. I would sacrifice versatility. This is just a better image. I would prefer 18 at the widest over 40, but would I take 18 over this? Yes, I actually like the way that the 12 to 28's images come together more than I like how the images of the 28 to 75 come together. So we'll make that little switch. This is optically superior to this. This is kind of worth the wait if that's what you're after. But I would definitely probably sacrifice this weight for this 51.8. But would I take the wider 17 before? I think I would, actually. This lens here is way better optically than the 17 to 28, but not better enough that this little versatility might be kind of worth it. Okay, I actually think this is good. So, as far as landscape lenses go with my loose little hodgepodge of things, the worst option I think to take on a hike, all things considered, is the 28 to 400. The next worst would be, God, what is this? The 35-1.4. I just don't like its optics. And then the 24 to 200, we don't have a whole lot in that landscape range, and it's just optically terrible. Honestly, because this is an artsy lens, I would take the 35-1.4 before I would take the 24 to 200. So we'll put that right there. And then next we have the 24-1.7. I wouldn't take this at all. I would actually take this right here. Okay, now I'm done. The worst, 28 to 400. Next we have the 24 to 200. Then the 24 f1.7, the 35-1.4, the 18 to 140, the 25 to 50, the 50-1.4, and now we get into the ones that are probably actually worth considering a little bit. The 50mm f2.8, pretty low on the list. The 24 to 120, I like this lens. It's a ton of fun. It just is going to do a lot of things better than landscapes. The 50-1.2 is just dadgum heavy, but optically awesome. The 28 2.8 weighs basically nothing, and it's fairly wide for a wide landscape. The 16 to 50, the image comes together pretty good, and we get a little bit of versatility. We're going to be stopping down, so the variable aperture be damned. The 40 f2, because it has a little bit of a special look to it. The 28 to 75 comes up next, and then the 12 to 28, you know, we get 16 on the wide end. No, not 16, 18 on the wide end, so I like that, and the images come together good on that. This is just fairly sharp, fairly contrasty, fairly everything, really lightweight, and this is just personal preference that I would take a 35 before I'd take the 12 to 28 based on its optics alone. The 24 to 70, worth the wait if you like the superior optics. The 50mm f1.8 if you don't need a whole lot of versatility, because optically it's awesome and it weighs almost nothing. In 7th place, the 24 f1.8, it is optically superior to this, but this is versatile enough to make up for that, I think. The 26 2.8 is just, it weighs absolutely nothing. You can go landscaping with a camera and this lens in your pocket, and it's just optically awesome. The 24 to 70 is more optically awesome, a little bit more versatile. The 14 to 24, classic. I mean, classic landscape lens. 14 to 24, this lens is almost optically perfect in its scoring. The 20mm f1.8s is just really lightweight, and it's just optically incredible. I would maybe switch these after I post this video. I'll probably change my mind. And then the number one, what I think is probably the best landscape lens for its awesome optics, its awesome portability, and a good amount of versatility, the Nikkor Z 14 to 30mm f4s. Let me know in the comments how you would rank these lenses. I'm Z Wade, the Z Wade, and Z Wade Photo. Stay sharp, YouTube.